Welcome everyone to the New Student and Family Q&A. I'm Sharon Bond, Director of New Student and Family Programs. And with us on tonight's call, we have Kelly Bittner, Assistant Director of New Student Programs, Beth Goad, Assistant Director of Family Programs, and we have Liz Spooner. She is the graduate intern. We have Chris McCaslin and Lindsay Patton from Housing and Residential Education, and Ira Simon from Sodexo Dining Services. We wanted to welcome you and let you know that New Student and Family Programs, or NSFP, our job is to successfully transition new students and their families into the University of Denver community. We have responsibility for New Student Discoveries Orientation, the Family Discoveries Program. We share information and resources with families and students throughout the year. And our website is available to you to find out about all of the different events going on and to get your information about us and contact information and see some videos on crimsonconnect.du.edu/NSFP. And Kelly, can you give everyone some information about the student experience of orientation?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Bittner, Assistant Director of New Student Programs. So I run our orientation programs for all of our incoming new students. So for our winter quarter students, you should have gotten an email earlier today letting you know about the opening of our app. This app, it's available in app form and on our website, but you can go in and you will have checklists that include transition tasks that all new students should complete prior to arrival. These are things like paying your bill, checking your financial aid, getting a parking pass, health insurance requirements, all those kind of things that you need as a student here at DU. And then it'll have a second checklist that also goes over all of your orientation requirements. And all of the links for your orientation requirements are included under that list. So for orientation, there are 3 different EverFi training courses that all students will be enrolled in if you haven't already. We're kind of rolling people into them as they get admitted or deposited. And so you will have those 3 courses to complete before arrival. There's an online Canvas course, which is our Discoveries Online, which covers 9 different topics about campus. Are your academics, finances, getting involved on campus, all these different things are covered there and that you can complete in your own time. And then we will also have a orientation program that will be held virtually on December 17th. And that will be covering sessions like getting our new students together as a cohort so they can get to know one another and meet some faces before they arrive to campus in January. We'll have a current student panel so students can hear from current students, ask them questions about what their experience has been like on campus, what things they should get involved in, recommendations for the best restaurants or coffee shops to study at, all those good questions that you might want to ask our current students. We'll have a special program for any of our students that have veteran status. So they'll go over kind of the special pieces that are attached to that and what services are offered there. We'll have a Get Involved session from our Office of Student Engagement, who will go over all of the things that are happening in the winter quarter and ways for students to get connected to other students on campus. We'll have presentations from Study Abroad, which will be very important for our transfer students because the deadline, if you want to study abroad, if your classification is close to junior, and that's something that you want to do in your junior year, the deadline will be coming up shortly after the start of the quarter. So we want to make sure you get that information in December so you can work towards that. And then we'll also have a virtual resource fair where we will have representatives from academic coaching, our library will go over all of the different research opportunities and supports that they have for you there. Athletics and recreation will be there, club sports, financial aid, health and counseling. Like we'll have representatives from all across the university to answer any questions that you have about any of their areas and to see how you can get involved. So that's pretty much all of orientation. The other piece that we will be adding both to the app, and it's available in a web version as well, will be that step-by-step guide relating to COVID. So all of the steps you need to complete before you arrive to campus. And I think we'll talk a little bit about that as it relates to housing. But that step-by-step checklist will also be added in that app shortly. So yeah, I think that's everything on orientation, and then I'll answer any questions as they come up too.
Great, thank you. And Beth, could you let everyone know about the resources that we have for new families?
Yes, hi, I'm Beth Goad. I work with the family program as assistant director. We have resources for families. So some of those include our monthly newsletter. We send out a newsletter every month for parents and families to let you know what's happening, ways you can support your student. We also have a Facebook group. It is is designated for parents and families. There are also students that are part of that Facebook group. But I will just mention that it's important when you request to join the group that you complete the 2 questions saying that you'll agree to our group rules and then time that your student was admitted. So the month and the year that your student was admitted to the university, that just helps us with tracking who's part of the group. Also, we have an email address if you have any questions that might come up throughout the time your student is there, or just don't even know where to start with who you would ask a question. You can always email us at parents@du.edu and we'll get back to you. And then finally, we have several videos, webinar recordings, and FAQs on our website. As Sharon mentioned, it's crimsonconnect.du.edu/NSFP. And we have recordings of our Family Discoveries program, which is our parent orientation program there.
Here's some contact information for you. Questions about orientation for students, go to discoveries@du.edu. And for parents and families, as Beth was just mentioning, parents@du.edu. And then we'll go ahead and move it over to Lindsay and Chris.
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. Hi, everyone. Thanks again for joining us. My name's Lindsay Patton. Like Sharon first introduced me, I am the interim assistant director for housing, newly into that position, so very excited to kind of get started with that role. And we'll just kind of go through an overview of what move-in's going to look like for winter quarter. And just some good information that we shared with students who started for fall quarter that also pertains to the winter quarter. And similar to what Kelly said, we'll answer questions kind of as they come in, and definitely during the Q&A session as well. So for winter move-in process and what to expect, students are going to go through what we call like a quick check-in process at the front desk of their residence hall. So if your student, for example, is living in Centennial Towers, on their move-in day, they will go in to the Towers building. They'll go to the front desk. If they have their DUID, they'll tap that and we'll be able to get them checked in pretty quickly so that they can start moving in. If they don't have their ID, they just need to bring some sort of photo ID so we can confirm identity, and then we'll be able to look them up and get them checked in that way. And we'll talk a little bit more in a couple of slides on the specifics of what move-in will look like with COVID restrictions and things like that. So fret not, it is coming. Prior to move-in, the university does have a requirement to have a flu shot or to have an exemption on file with the Health and Counseling Center. That information can be found on the Health and Counseling Center's website, and we can post that in the chat too if that's helpful. And I believe the HCC website, Health and Counseling Center, has information on where the form is if your student would like to fill out the exemption request as well. Another thing is to get a COVID test prior to move-in if a student is able to do so. We know that depending on where students are coming from, that might not be a possibility, and there are different stipulations that are required for a COVID test. So if able, getting one before they arrive to campus is great. If they're not able to, they will get tested as soon as they check in, and then they'll receive follow-up information from our COVID coordinator team on getting retested about a week or so after, just to make sure that whether they're asymptomatic or not, nothing's come up or anything like that. If they get tested prior to coming to campus, they'll still want to get tested once they arrive and check in at the testing pod, which is just outside the Ritchie Center, and it's got drive-through and walk-up capabilities as well. Students are also able, just as a FYI, to check their requirements in Pioneer Web. If they log in on their student tab, in the left-hand corner, there's a title that says COVID-19 information, and there's a link. Mine says return to campus status. I'm assuming it'll be a similar title for students, and there it'll say what they still need to complete, if they've completed certain things, and then contact information if they're having issues with anything, have questions, things like that. Various parking options during and after the student's time slot when they come to check in. So parking is available. There's up to 1 hour street parking if students are coming with not a lot of stuff and think that they can park and easily unload by the building and then get all moved in and settled in. There's also paid parking around campus, various spots where you can use app or debit, credit card, things like that. If your student has a parking pass and will be living on campus or staying on campus with it, they can use that to swipe in and park in there to unload and move in and things like that. Yeah, next slide, please. So resources after move-in. First and foremost, students are definitely going to want to get connected with their RA. Connections and socials and things like that are going to continue to be virtual and distanced per any standards that are set by the city, the state, local health departments, things like that. But also just to make sure that students are feeling engaged, connecting with their RAs, and getting to meet their floor. We're trying as best as we can to still offer those spaces so that students don't feel completely isolated. We know it's a very interesting time to be on campus, so they still will have the opportunity to connect with their RAs that way, and we definitely encourage that. RAs will also reach out to their residents within the first couple of weeks, one, just to make sure everybody came back who was here for fall, and get everybody checked in properly, but also just to touch base with our new folks and see kind of what their interests are, what they might want to do for socials, any ideas they might have, and things like that. We also recommend getting them connected in Rafter, which is an app that we use to keep our students in contact with our staff and their RAs. We share various information about socials, and there's information on campus events, off-campus events that are close to DU, and things like that. The app is just Rafter, the way that it's spelled there, no E, and students will sign up or can sign up with their DU email address, and they can pick any password they'd like. So if they wanted to get connected now, they could definitely download that and get started. Once they have it downloaded, have their account created, they'll want to join their building raft. So using the Centennial Towers example, they would want to search for Centennial Towers, join that raft, and then they would join whatever their floor's chat channel would be. So if your student is living in a room on 4 South in Centennial Towers, they would join the 4 South chat channel. There's also building staff that students can connect with. We have at least one graduate resident director or GRD in each community or in each building, and also one resident director or RD. And students can connect with them if they have questions. The RAs also work with them very closely. They supervise the RAs on any issues, concerns, questions, things like that that might need to be elevated. So students are definitely welcome to connect with them, and their information can be found on our website. It's du.edu/housing, super simple. Yeah, and then any questions about general housing inquiries or anything that students might not be sure who to talk to about it, but it's housing related, they can always email us, housing@du.edu. We are open Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. Even over winter break, we will be closed during the university holiday there at the end, excuse me, at the end of the month. But we will definitely try to do everything we can to help out or get students connected with whoever might be able to better answer their question. Next slide, please. Okay, so just some reminders for packing and move-in. We highly encourage students to pack light, whatever that might look like or mean to you. Essentially, it's, you know, with everything going on in the world and with the pandemic, we don't, you know, our biggest hope is that we don't have to pivot and send students home like we had to in the spring when this all kind of happened and the nation had to pretty much pivot. But in the event that that does happen, we encourage students to bring what's essential, what's necessary for them, or things that they wouldn't mind quickly packing up, for storage or to ship home or anything like that, or things that they wouldn't mind donating, if they're buying gently used extra furniture or anything like that. We just encourage that just in case. We, hope for the best, but plan for in case we need to pivot. And then we also recommend that students have an isolation or quarantine bag, somewhat packed or as packed as you can. That long hyperlink down at the bottom, which I see Sharon's recording, so you can easily access it if you want to visit the website. It's got a list of recommended items, toiletries, spare contacts or glasses, spare chargers, anything that students might need, extra pencils. Students will have about 90 minutes to pack before they are moved into isolation or quarantine if they do need to be moved. So it doesn't need to be fully packed, but as packed as they can have it. That way it's one less thing to worry about in an already probably stressful and really frightful situation. They're ready, they're prepped, and nothing for them to have to worry about forgetting. And we say anywhere from 10 to 14 days of clothes. Some students don't have that many clothes, which is why we say try to pack as much as you can in the bag, but then they'll have that 90 minutes to get ready if they need it. So move-in dates for our students will be January 9th and January 10th for all of our new folks, from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Students can come on either one of those days in between those times. We made it those 2 days during that time. One, because we're seeing that a lot of our returning students are coming back in days prior, and we wanted our new students to have a little bit of a nicer, smoother, calmer move-in transition time, and 9 to 5 p.m. so that it gives students time to go get tested at the testing pod. And we have limitations to how many students we can let move in a day right now, just so that we don't inundate the testing pod, so they don't run out of tests. Yeah, thought I had something else and I didn't. Students will have 90 minutes to move in. They will get to have 2 helpers max, which is the same process we did for fall. When students check in, they'll just let the desk assistant know they're moving in for the first time and they have 1 or 2 helpers. If they don't have any, that's also fine. Students and their helpers will be given a wristband to wear during their move-in time. And that just lets our staff know that these folks are allowed to be in the building. We don't need to remind them, hey, only students allowed, right now. And so it just helps us keep track, but also helps us know that we don't need to ask folks to politely leave the building. At the end of the 90 minutes, we do ask that helpers not come back into the building. You're of course more than welcome to help the student if anything is left over, to bring it up, outside so the student can carry it in. We do have dollies available as well, so you can take more than 1 or 2 items at a time. But we just ask that people respectfully try to keep it to that 90 minutes. We found that a lot of students, actually most of our students, didn't have an issue with that 90-minute restraint. So we were really excited and happy about that. And then one final note is elevator capacity and one-way access. As much as you can, keep in mind there will still be some returning students moving in, and the elevators can get pretty clogged. There are signs that state, how many folks are allowed in the elevator at a time, for distancing purposes and again for safety concerns. So if you can take the elevator up or can take the stairs up, you're more than welcome to. We encourage folks to take the elevator up and stairs down if they're able, whatever works for you, but just something to keep in mind. It might help speed up your move-in process. And then one final note is that always an asterisk, I feel like, is the theme of 2020. These are policies and procedures that are subject to change depending on information we get from the state, information that comes from the city, the county, anything like that. But we will keep in contact with students via their DU email. So just making sure that they're checking that on a consistent basis, so that they are kept in the loop and in the know. And I think, yeah, next slide. So again, there's that contact information for the housing email, my contact information as well. If you'd like to find me or email me, you're more than welcome to. And my information is also on the housing website. So feel free to reach out, and thank you.
Okay.
Hello there. I guess it's my turn. My name is Ira. I am the resident district manager for Denver Dining by Sodexo, but to most students, I'm considered the food service director. And we are excited about having you come to the university. You're also coming, as you just heard, at a very strange time with COVID, but you're also coming that after 5 years of planning and construction, you're going to be one of our first students on campus experiencing the new community commons, which is the north side of Driscoll. If you are a first or second year student, you have already selected and living on campus, you've selected your housing and you've selected one of your 3 block meal plans. If you are a third or fourth year student or living off campus, I recommend considering the 50 block commuter plan, because that will give you the best value and access to our dining location in the community commons. Each of our block meal plans comes with $230 in meal plan cash per quarter that I'm going to describe a couple places where you could use that meal plan cash. Next slide, please. We will be opening a brand new Starbucks on campus, world-renowned. It would be like a Starbucks that's in your neighborhood right now, full of service, everything done exactly the way Starbucks expects. Unfortunately, there are some construction delays on that location, and it will be opening about mid-February. However, on January 7th, and when you arrive on January 9th and 10th, the Rollin' and Bowlin' on the first floor, along with Starbucks, will be opening. And the Rollin' and Bowlin' is a healthy concept that features acai bowls, smoothies, and they have this neat little avocado toast thing where you could put different vegetables or proteins on it. Very healthy and very cool concept. Next slide. The Rebecca Chop Grand Central Market is on the second floor. It features 4 beautiful neighborhoods, and each neighborhood contains a unique concept. And each neighborhood has 2 unique concepts. Under normal conditions, we would have 695 seats plus a beautiful patio. We will have some restrictions in seating. Everything will be in a takeout container. So if the seats are occupied, you'll have easily access to the first floor, third floor, or even the 4th floor. If you wanted to take your meal to any of those other locations, there's plenty of space in this beautiful new building. Next slide. Each of the neighborhoods has what we call a platform that features 2 different concepts. And of those concepts, they all start with a salad and they end with fruit and dessert. And in between, you'll be able to experience a variety of different menu options, both some consistent and some changing weekly. For example, in Brightside, we have 7 Spoons, which is our global menu featuring foods from regions and countries around the world. It also features our Pure and Simple, which is our allergen-free safe zone that will have a complete menu with multiple options without 7 of the 8 most common allergens. Next slide. The next neighborhood is the Hearth, a beautiful fireplace setting. And this is our pizza and pasta concepts. And each one, as I said, just start with a salad, you end with fruit and dessert, and then in between you can choose your menu from those 2 concepts. Next menu, please. Next slide. The Mountain View features our stir fry and vegan vegetarian concept. The stir fry is a Mongolian grill. So you would come through and start with choosing whatever produce whatever selections of produce fresh vegetables you would like to have in your dish, and then you would select your proteins. Our chefs would cook it in front of you and then add a starch to it, a pasta or a noodle rice, and then you'll end up with fruit and desserts as your choices. In our vegan vegetarian concept, we're very proud to offer this because we're seeing a large number of students coming to campus that are either vegan or following a vegetarian diet. And you'll have a dedicated concept where you'll be able to choose or customize your menu from start to finish. Next slide. In the courtyard view, we have our grill and greens. Our grill, of course, we're using locally sourced beef and buns. We're cooking them on a char broiler, and we'll also be offering boneless chicken breasts, quesadillas, grilled cheese, special event, weekly special options, and you'll be able to choose anything that you would like with that, and on top of that, burger or chicken or sandwich. And again, it ends with fruit and desserts. Our greens is our customizable salad bar, where you will choose whatever fresh produce and vegetables that you would like. And at the end of that, you'll have a choice of a protein, whether it's carved salmon, turkey breast, carved roast beef. So you could add a protein on top of your salad. Our to-go will be a pre-made, simply to-go concept where we have sandwiches, salads, fruits, and vegetables that you could quickly take with you if you're in a hurry. Next slide. So as I said earlier, if you're living on campus and you have your first and second year student, you have already selected one of the 3 meal block plans. If you're a commuter student living off campus, you should consider the 50 block plan. With every meal swipe, you'll be entitled to an entree, 3 sides, and a fountain beverage. Now, that is one of your swipes, and you would get a complete meal from each of those 9 concepts. You may, if you wanted to try a second concept or take something with you, you can also use multiple swipes during a meal period by using a meal swipe and then going to another concept if you'd like to try something else. But you can also consider, if you're not interested in a complete full meal, you may easily use your meal plan cash, flex, or credit cards and buy just what you want. You do not have to use a full swipe every time you go there. Next slide, please. On the 4th floor, Denver Dining has food on the 1st, 2nd, and 4th floor. The 4th floor will offer what we would call a high-end lunch. Now that's a tough way to explain, but the way I would describe it is if you're having trouble with a grade and you want to take your professor out to lunch, this is where you want to take them. We also have a social hour. If you're over 21 or even under 21, you're invited to our social hour from 4 to 7, and we'll have free hors d'oeuvres and alcoholic and non-alcoholic beverages that you may choose. There's no responsibility for you to purchase anything. It's a social opportunity for you to be around other students. Next slide, please. So the interesting function of our new Rebecca Chop Grand Central Market, and a decision we made along with the university, is we are not going to have menu boards. So when you walk in this beautiful wide open space where you could see all the way across the room, will not have a printed menu where you could look up. So we are recommending that every student download our Byte University app. They could download this onto their cell phone. Everyone brings that with them. And you can look at every menu from each of the 9 different stations, decide where you want to go before you even walk into the Grand Central Market. And this is particularly important if you're going in with friends and you all want to try something different. You could all decide what you want to go and then say, I'll meet you over at the Hearth, or I'll meet you over at Brightside. So there's a lot of opportunities, and it's very important that everyone downloads the Byte University app. You would go to Sodexo, Byte University, and choose the University of Denver. And there'll be more information on how to download that when you arrive. Next slide. So for those of you who have been looking at our website or have been on campus, we have operated a food service outlet in the Nagel Hall. And the good thing about that, it is closing, but the good thing about that is one of our highest rated locations on campus when we do our student surveys. And essentially, we're taking that Nagel Market and creating a mega Nagel over at the Rebecca Chop Grand Central Market. We will also be up, we also have in JMAC and Centennial Halls, a Pioneer General Store, and your meal plan cash will be very accessible at that location. And your meal plan cash will also be available at the Front Porch Cafe in the library and at Einstein's in the College of Business in Daniels building. So your meal plan cash is what we consider retail spending in the general stores and retail locations like Starbucks, Roland and Boland, Front Porch Cafe, and Einstein's. Next slide, please. Now we have currently, which are changing over in right now as we speak, the Nelson and Centennial dining halls. Now, when you come back or when you arrive, you haven't really been here before, so that makes it easier for us. But when you arrive, Nelson and Centennial halls will be operating Monday through Friday, 7 to 7, and they will have a light meal option where you can spend your meal plan cash or flex or credit cards. Your meals, your block meals will be for the Rebecca Chop Grand Central Market, and your meal plan cash will be available at retail locations, including Nelson and Centennial halls. Now, over the summer, we've already been planning and are going through a design process. And over the summer of 21, we will be taking both Nelson and Centennial and renovating them into a small neighborhood bodega. The reason that we couldn't do it before you arrive is that this changeover is taking place in the middle of the school year. And so we have to wait till the summer. But in the summer, Nelson and Centennial halls will transform into your neighborhood bodega. And we'll be blending our C-stores, adding some unique options, and creating a real comfortable place where you could go in throughout the day and use your meal plan cash, flex, or credit cards. Thank you. Next slide. So there's our address, du.edu/dining. All of this information plus plenty of more other options or just information is on our website. There's videos, there's safety protocols that we're using around COVID. Everything you could possibly think of is on that website. Thank you very much, Sharon. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thanks, Ira, and everyone else who participated with the presentation tonight. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen now and bring us all back together and open up the questions. So I've noticed that a few questions were coming in while we were here. Anyone want to jump in? Any of the presenters want to jump in and answer something that they found on those questions?
So I will go ahead and answer the question about the quarantine. So the quarantine is supposed to happen before arrival to campus. So we want to make sure that folks are not coming to campus infected. I don't know if the maybe Lindsay, you might know this better. I don't know if the quarantine guidance has been updated to a 10-day quarantine versus a 14. Do you know if that's been confirmed?
Last we heard it was still 14 days, and there were talks about potentially completing the final few days in room if it came down to it. But COVID coordinator is probably the best contact just to get confirmed information. But yeah, last we heard it was still 14 days and possible to finish it up in your room if you needed to, but preferably finishing it completely before coming to campus.
Mm-hmm. So that was that one. And then I also wanted to talk about the options, the question about options for virtual learning. So students would actually need to talk directly to your academic advisor if that's an option that you want to take. So you would be able to work with your advisor to figure out, based on, you know, whatever your major is, whatever year you are, how many credits you're coming in, what your next sequence of classes would be, and what virtual or in-person or hybrid options exist for those. So I will go ahead and drop to everyone in the chat just the links for how to set up those appointments if you are looking to have them.
All right, I see a question here. If your child is an international student, would they be required to complete the quarantine once they arrive in the States or in their country? If your student has not been able to quarantine prior to that, then it will be suggested that they, or I'm going to have to say it would be required for your student to go ahead and quarantine in their room, do their classes in the online environment in the beginning. I think we're going to have more guidance on this. And Lindsay, if you want to add anything else to that for students who are traveling internationally, or for any of the students who let us know that they were unable to do their quarantine, will they receive guidance at the time that they move into the residence halls on their quarantine requirement?
Yeah, so and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but the COVID coordinator team's still working on developing kind of what those requirements are going to look like and putting it into the Pioneer Web requirement link that I mentioned, so that students know, okay, this is what my requirement is. It'll list out, here's what you need to do based off of kind of what your situation is, domestic versus international. And there should, if I'm not mistaken, be a button to start logging your quarantine, similar to what we had done in the summer for students prior to their move-in as well. It's not a great answer. It's still kind of up in the air and being solidified, but it's information that once we have that concrete answer, we'll be emailing students on, hey, here's what your requirements are, and it'll be well before 2 weeks before they need to start quarantining. We won't, email them on December 28th and say, okay, it's time. So they'll have information prior to that once we have more guidance from COVID coordinator team.
That's correct, Lindsay.
Thank you for that. Also, I'm not sure if this was already mentioned. I didn't hear it. The main website, du.edu/coronavirus. That is where you will find a lot of other information where you can see what's happening with the COVID dashboard. We have a COVID-19 dashboard. So if you were to pull up that page, and when we send out this recording and do a recap of this discussion, we'll also include all of the links that we've been talking about tonight, including this one for the coronavirus page, and all of the different resources that are available to families, to students. There are some FAQs on that page, our action plan, and as I mentioned, the COVID-19 dashboard, which has a lot of information about what is actually happening on campus right now as far as number of cases and other information from the past several months. I just wanted to throw that in there and make sure that you knew that that was a resource that you can take a look at, and we'll continue to share that information. As Lindsay mentioned, with you, we'll get the most updated info on the policies and procedures at DU.
I could take the next question, and absolutely, the parents are welcome to eat at the New Commons, and also your block meal plans are, every meal can be used as a guest meal. So it may be the last chance your student gets a chance to buy you something. So let them take you to lunch. The hours, well, we open at 7 and we'll close at 7:30, and then we reopen again at 9 till 10:30. So we open at 7 for breakfast. We'll obviously have 2 omelet stations and a full line breakfast. And then throughout the morning, starting at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, all the other stations will come online. And at 10:30, we'll take the 3 breakfast locations, transition them over to lunch, but there'll still be something open during that time. So from 7 to 7:30, there will always be something open. And from 7:30 to 9, we'll be cleaning up and then getting ready for the late night meal that your students come back to with their block meal plan. And that's been a very popular program for us, having that late night meal. And it gives a lot of, and having it in the community commons brings students from South Campus as well as North Campus together. And you'll see people that they may not have seen before when we had 3 smaller facilities. So we're pretty excited about that.
And Ira, how late will the community commons stay open for meals?
Well, we closed the full service at 7:30, and then we reopen again from 9 to 10:30 for late night. All right, but the Starbucks, when it opens, will be open until 10 o'clock. And so we'll have something in there late into the evening. And of course, if the demand is there, we're going to continue to keep it open as late as we need to. But right now it's scheduled till 10 p.m.
It's great.
And we all, as a new student and family programs team, just got a tour of the new building for the first time a couple weeks ago, and it's absolutely beautiful. I'm so excited for it.
Me too.
Yeah, you're
That's a
going
great
to love
job.
it. And it's
Yeah.
not just food. You have to the new students and their parents, this is not just about food. Obviously, food will bring you there. But the key is when you're there, there's going to be something for you to do. There's so many services. There's so many options. There's so much collaboration space. There's so many places where you could just sit and study. It's just a and there's some beautiful views on the 4th level. You can see the entire Rocky Mountains from there. So it's just gorgeous. You're going to enjoy that.
Looks like we wound down with the questions. If anyone else has a last minute question, feel free to pop that in the chat. I think that's going to be it, everybody. Okay, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Thanks to our staff members who were presenters this evening. I appreciate you for being here. And if you do still, continue to have any other questions, we will follow up with an email. I'll put the copy of the recording, a link to the recording into that email, plus the different links that we mentioned tonight on the call, and give you some resources and some contact information for getting back in touch with us if anything else comes to mind. So I want to say good night, everybody. And we're excited to have you joining us in January, and we will be back in touch with you soon. Have a good night, everyone.